Well, good evening. Oh man. On nights like this, it is always terrible to be the last speaker. I mean, to say nothing of the expectations, right? By the time you get up here following all of these phenomenal women doing extraordinary things in the world, honestly, what is left to say? Well, if you're wondering what I have been obsessing about for the last 24 hours, it's that. I've written drafts, ripped them up. I've tossed various themes around in my head. I did a call with the leadership of the National Partnership for Women and Families, and afterward I felt stuck and frustrated. And it's a feeling that I've been actually having a lot lately in this current political climate. A feeling of overwhelming responsibility to show up, along with a confusion about how to engage most effectively with the huge numbers of challenges we are facing as a country, as a gender, as a race, as a culture. Sometimes I am filled with a lot of anxiety, and my heart aches. And this feels a little bit scary to say, in those moments, I don't really want to show up. Even Olivia Pope doesn't want to show up. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about showing up. Because thanks to you all, I'm here tonight, showing up with you. But I didn't come here to be honored by the National Partnership for Women and Families. I came to honor you and to walk with you. Because let's face it, if you are in this room to some extent or another, you are in this fight. You are showing up. And we got to show up for each other. So I want to thank you for having me, because since Scandal ended, it's been difficult to figure out how to spend my Thursday nights. The last time I was in DC, it was to film the very final episode of Scandal, and in that episode we watched two young black girls wind their way through the National Portrait Gallery until they find a portrait of my character, Olivia Pope, surrounded by those first three words of our Constitution, "We the people." I brought my daughter and my parents to set to see the portrait. After all, it's not every day that your boss commissions an oil painting of you, right? So my parents reacted exactly the way you'd expect parents to react, with a lot of pride and some excitement, and my daughter didn't seem impressed at all. And I actually thought that was perfect. She shouldn't be captivated by a portrait of her mom. I don't want her to revere the perceived power or stature of any one person, really. I want her to cultivate her own power. I want her to revere the power of we the people. Sometimes I imagine a day in the future when maybe I'll take her down the street to the National Archives so she can see the Constitution and witness the power of those three words, we the people. Maybe she'll reflect on the revolutionary promise of this country and the beautiful dream it represents. But inevitably, she would also make the short walk across the rotunda and read those famous words from our Declaration, that all men are created equal. And I wonder how that would make her feel. I know how it makes me feel. At the time those words were written, neither women nor African Americans were deemed worthy enough, dare I say fully human enough, to be included in that vision of freedom and equity. And yet, worthy we are. We are not property. We are not fractions of humanity. We are the people. And the journey to make those first three words of the Constitution include all of us, that is the journey we are on. And the National Partnership for Women and Families has been leading the way for so long and with such hard-won effectiveness that sometimes we run the risk of taking it for granted. When you're an actor and you're pregnant on the job, they try to do a lot of things. Shoot you from different camera angles, film you sitting down, buy bigger and bigger Prada bags to hide your baby bump. But thanks to this organization, do you know what they can't do? Fire you, that's right. Because the National Partnership wrote and passed the Pregnancy Discrimination Act 40 years ago, around the time my mother was pregnant with me. When I told my boss, Shonda Rhimes, I was pregnant, she literally jumped up and down with joy in my trailer. She and the rest of our Scandal family didn't just congratulate me, they did everything in their power to support me throughout my pregnancy. For 7 seasons, I was so incredibly lucky to work in a matriarchy. But that treatment shouldn't be the result of working for a woman. It should be the result of being a working woman. Equity in pay and fair treatment on the job shouldn't be the result of working for a woman. It should be the result of being a woman who works. We are the people. We deserve access to quality, affordable health care and control over our own bodies. We deserve safety and equality and a fair democracy and full rights of citizenship, but all of that is under threat right now. The current administration is an important reminder that progress can be undone, but as the National Partnership's 47-year history demonstrates, the challenges we're facing predate this administration and persist whether the people in office consider themselves our allies or not. So we have to protect the progress we've made even as we fight for more. So how do we do that? We show up for one another, even and especially when we're frustrated and uncomfortable, even when our hearts are aching. So what does that mean? What does showing up mean for you today? Let's talk about it. To the corporate folks in the audience, you recognize the importance of recruiting and maintaining the best talent available to you, all genders and races and ethnicities, all sexual orientations and religions, but do you have the kind of policies and practices that actually do that? Do you truly value inclusivity? To our friends from the legal arena, how about picking up a little bit more pro bono work immediately? To our leaders on Capitol Hill, you have the power of the pen. Are you using it? And are you listening to your constituents or just to your big donors? To the young people here tonight, thank you. Continue to guide us on how to best serve you and show up for you. And to the men here, thank you for being our allies. Next year, bring some of your friends with you. And tell them to bring their hearts and their checkbooks. We can all do more. We can all do more. We can donate a little bit more money. We can make a few more phone calls. We can let the aching of our hearts be the opening of our arms wide enough to hold each other up, to show up for each other as a group, but also sister to sister. You know, I got just as much support on the Scandal set during my second pregnancy as I did with my first. But about halfway through that pregnancy, someone on my professional team told me that she was expecting too. And so just like Shonda did, because I had been taught well, I responded with joy. I jumped up and down. And I did everything in my power to make sure that she had the support she needed to become a mom and maintain her career. That's what each of us has to do. We have to show up for each other. We have to address the big, seemingly intractable problems we're facing as a country, but we also have to address the smaller everyday challenges that the woman next to us is facing. We have to see each other. We have to show up for each other. So I want to do something before we leave tonight. You know I'm an actor, so I'm going to make you do like warm and fuzzy things. I want each of you to turn to somebody, your neighbor, make it somebody that you haven't met before tonight, even if it means you have to turn around to the other table. Find somebody that you don't know that well. They might be behind you. I'm really waiting for you to do it. Okay, everybody have your person? Ish? Okay. You'll each have a chance to do this, so I want you to take turns. But I want you to share with that person why you show up for women, why it's important to you. and I want you to get personal. Start to wrap up. Okay, now I want you to switch. The person who was listening, I want you to now share why you show up for women. Okay. Now I'm going to attempt to have you all pay attention again. And so now the next thing I'm going to ask you to do, is really important. I want you now to look back at that person and with a heart that's more open than it was 5 minutes ago, I want you to thank them, to really thank them. Go ahead. So I wanted you to do that. I wanted us to do that because the truth is that when we don't want to show up, the most important thing that we can do is to connect with another person who's doing this work. Because no matter what the intentions were when those original words were written by our founders, we are fully human. And we will win this fight when we truly uphold and celebrate each other's full humanity in this fight. Because we are the people. And the power of our togetherness, that is what will heal our aching hearts and save the soul of this country. So, thank you to the National Partnership, and thank you. Good night.